Hey everybody, it's Bob Crossan, Senior Managing Editor for Water and Waste Digest. Throughout the month of July, we are featuring our 2020 Young Pros, and today I have with us Sarah Matin. She is the Product Resources Engineer for Rinker Materials. So Sarah, thank you so much for being on the call today. We appreciate you taking the time.
Sure, no problem. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I wanted to actually start a little bit light with you in terms of the questioning because this was very interesting to me. You're a really competitive golfer. How did you get
Yeah,
how did you get into that sport, and what types of things did you learn from that sport that have helped you throughout the rest of your life and your career?
sure. I live in Florida, so we can play golf all year round, so that helps. I started playing when I was a little girl, around four years old, with my dad, and just it kind of was something I really enjoyed, and it came easy to me learning, and just a good way to spend time with my family. And then I played, junior career, high school, and then in college, and then I think after being a collegiate athlete, you're like, oh, I need some time to like chill. And but now I play with my husband. I introduced my 4-year-old son to golf, and it's a wonderful. It teaches me something new every single time I play. So to your point of how it kind of overlaps professionally, I think golf is one of the best ways to mark a person and see how their personality is. So I play golf with a lot of our clients and friends in my industry. And I think it's a really good way. You spend 4 to 5 hours with someone, you get to understand them more on a personal level. And, golf is a game of integrity. And you can really learn a lot about someone, how they're fair, how they, react in tough situations, if they want to have fun, or if they're a poor loser or can't really control their emotions. So that really kind of helps judge someone's character, in my opinion. But it's also lent me to develop really great relationships with a lot of different people. Even one of the guys I work with, how I was able to create a relationship to the job I'm at because I've known him just through playing golf. So I think it sounds so cheesy, but it really allows you to meet a lot of different people, and we all struggle with the game of golf. So there's that common denominator there that we can kind of wallow in our sorrows after a bad round, or people want to celebrate. So I think it's just a great equalizer.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the things that you mentioned in the follow-up questionnaire that we did too is like the importance of being detail oriented. And that's like, to me, translates so perfectly to golf where every small detail can matter.
Yeah, golf is a game of inches, but you also have to be able to cut yourself some slack, and not freak out if you have a bad shot, because obviously I'm a professional engineer. I'm not a professional golfer, and just remind yourself that you can't get too frustrated if you're not putting in a level of effort in, which is the same to be expected in engineering. You have to learn the ropes, learn from your experiences, and not make the same mistake again and again, which is the same thing on the golf course.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, getting onto your career path and your engineering now, it sounded like you started kind of with the roadways side of thing. Could you talk a little bit about your career path and how you moved into your current role?
Sure. I graduated with a degree in civil engineering from the University of Central Florida, and I interned at a smaller company, and I thought I wanted to do more traffic design, intersection signalization, which once I learned what that really was in the field rather than in school, just wasn't a fit for what I wanted to do. So then I worked for another small company doing basically a lot of different stuff. When you work for a small company, you kind of put your hands in everything, which is a really good learning tool. So I did roadway design, utility management, did a little bit of site civil work, which isn't my favorite, but I did it. But then I got to work on a lot of large scale design build projects in the state of Florida, one of the first couple ones, which was really, really cool to experience those huge projects and work hand in hand with our contractors. And then I was able to work for another small firm. They wanted to expand their services to Orlando, Central Florida, and bring the Department of Transportation as a client. So that was an opportunity I really couldn't turn down, even though it was a really hard decision to leave my other company. But I was excited for the jump. And then to change kind of gears to get on the manufacturing side, the world and your career and life throws different curveballs at you. I had my little boy, and I was like, I don't know if I can be away from him every day during the day. And this opportunity with Rinker, I actually work from home. I obviously travel for my job and do all sorts of fun stuff, but it just seemed to fit with my lifestyle. And I really enjoy working in the field and with contractors to solve might not be a complex problem, but it could end up being a very expensive problem. So I really enjoy that, doing a lot of trainings, getting to travel, but still not being, away so much from my family, which is really important to me. That's kind of how I became here. And now I feel like I do more real engineering work than I ever did as a consulting engineer because, I'm kind of specialized into one thing as it is concrete pipe. And the people in my industry are just fabulous. I really enjoy it.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, one of the things too that we recognized about the nomination form for you is just the sheer volume of involvement you have with agencies, both locally and at a national level. We
Yeah,
simply did not have the room to fit all of them in print. So I hope that we can highlight just like how involved you are in a lot of things. Could you talk about why that's important to you and why you put so
sure.
much effort into those?
Yeah, I've always been really involved with the American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, ever since I was a student in college. And now I'm the Region 5 governor representing the state of Florida, which ASCE, we say you always have a home at ASCE. And it really, I think, develops relationships. And especially in consulting, relationships matter. Obviously, you want to team with a company or a individual person, a specialty person that has the pedigree and the resume, but you also want to understand that person and them outside of engineering. And I think ASC does a really good job of that. I enjoy kind of spreading the word of civil engineering to our young people, especially at the collegiate level, helping them to understand transitioning from school to professional life, because it is a really big jump and understanding what that means. So for me, I really enjoy that. On kind of the separate side, I'm very involved in government relations with ASC and promoting civil engineering and infrastructure funding because we can talk about it all the time with each other in an echo chamber, but educating our legislators and the lay public is something that I really enjoy. And ASC helped me to develop this skill set.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that the working especially with the attitudes of legislators and really putting water especially at the forefront for them
Yes.
is like really critical because there oftentimes is that disparity between like the roadway side and then the water and wastewater side. So
Yeah, and a lot of times, we don't think about these entities of infrastructure until they fail, which shouldn't
mhm.
be the case. You just expect when you turn the faucet on that you're going to get fresh, clean water into your home, or when you flush a toilet that everything's going to go away and there's no problem. But understanding what those begin and end systems, how those work, and how water's critical for modern day life here in the United States and across the country, across the world. It's very important. So I find it to be, especially living in Florida where we have to deal with hurricane season and lots of huge issues that maybe other parts of the country don't deal with.
Yeah, just the low water table even makes a tremendous impact on a lot of the systems. So
Correct.
or the
Yes.
high water table, I guess
I
is
know what you mean. Yeah.
yeah. So how going back to kind of like the roadway design thing, how did your
Mhm.
previous experiences influence the way that your current role, I guess? Like what types of things do
Yeah.
you bring along with you from role to role?
Well, I think it's really important, especially having a client like the Florida Department of Transportation, how they do business and understanding their huge road building organization, and they do a really good job of it, understanding the needs of the traveling public and how we as engineers and then contractors provide that need or provide a solution for that need. So for me, understanding design elements, not just learning it in a textbook, understanding what it actually means to do the design and what's critical and what's important to a consulting engineer. Because a lot of times in manufacturing, we might put like, oh, the engineer thinks this way in a bubble, where they might be handicapped based on what the specifications and their clients asking for, because a project can encompass many different parts, but what do we have funding for, what's important. And a lot of times when I do trainings, I say, we're experts in concrete pipe, we're experts in flow, those kind of things, but you might not be a quote unquote expert. That's why we're here to provide that information. But understanding that it might not be something that the engineer of record forgot to put on the plans or didn't want to include. They might just not understand how critical this part of the project is. So providing that expertise, because when I was a consultant, the worst thing you can do as a professional engineer is to practice outside your expertise. And it's important to, if you're not comfortable with something, to ask someone who is. I'm not a structural engineer. I would by no means would want to take on a project for a vertical building, even if someone asks me, even for the amount of money, it doesn't matter. You would want to defer to someone who has that that background and that training. So I think using those ideas in manufacturing and providing that, that balance, and then also having relationships with contractors and understanding what's important to them, and what information they want to have and what information they don't, and what's, for them, that's a lot of dollars and cents and scheduling and contracting. I had a boss who really, allowed me to read through specs, understand what it says. I always say I didn't get a degree in law, but I try to read things as much as I can so that nothing falls through the cracks, because ignorance is never an excuse.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems that sometimes there can be some undue hardship paid on the side of engineers when they may not understand the full scope of exactly
Right.
why this thing is so important.
Yeah. So I try to, just provide that, friendly face, if you will, like, hey, I've done this design, I've been there, I understand, where you're coming from. And we always say from our association standpoint in my company, we want to provide as much information as possible. And we would say we're an open book for design and training and constructability, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, the last question I wanted to leave you with today was more about kind of the next generation of leadership. I think that
Mhm.
during this time, there's obviously a lot of people are retiring. We're going to need to replace some really intelligent and really effective people in the industry. What are ways that organizations and employers can encourage the next generation of workers basically to come into the industry? And what types of things can we do to cater to them?
I think that's a really good point that you're making. And part of the reason I like to stay involved with professional associations, because engineering, civil engineering, in my opinion, is really an apprenticeship type of uh, profession. And it's, you can learn as much as you want in school, but real world experience, is paramount. And I think it's important for leaders and organizations, whomever project manager, then they've got their assistant project managers, always take those younger green, if you will, engineers to any meeting in the field, get them used to seeing what goes on. I had a couple bosses that always took me to a meeting. I was super stressed out about it, but they just wanted to bring me so I could experience it and understand that sometimes, the question you're having as a young engineer, you're more eager to ask it, and an older, more seasoned person might not want to, but everyone probably has the same question. So just getting used to those environments so that when you're in that situation, you have the confidence to be effective. So I really feel like not just pigeonholing people, allowing them to see the whole gamut of what goes on, from, working on procuring work to doing the work to project closeout and issues in construction. Because if we sit, in our box of an office and don't experience what happens in the field, we can't be effective designers. So really, showing younger engineers that they can make a difference by learning along the way.
Yeah. There's such a variety of opportunities too in the industry
Yes.
to go from. So there's kind of a little bit of anything for anyone. So I
Yes.
think
And you don't
that's
know you don't know what your passion might be until you're in your career, 7,
mhm.
8 years. And that's okay. That's the beauty of civil engineering. There's so many different little facets that you can really take a liking to.
Yeah, and that's also the beauty of bringing them into a meeting so they can see is
Exactly.
that what you want to do on a day to day.
Yeah, and know that it's not. So for me, I was like, oh, I'm so scared to like go sit in this meeting, all these people that are way smarter than me, have way more experience, and then realize they're not. They have, they've had the same experiences, so kind of evens that playing field a little bit.
Yeah, they just have the professional experience that you haven't
Right.
cultivated yet.
Yeah, you can't change how old you are or how long you've been in the industry. So I think that's
Mhm.
really important to, drag that person with you, even if maybe you didn't budget for it, but it'll work out better in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thanks so much, Sarah. I do appreciate you taking the time with us today. It's been great to talk to you.
Thanks, Bob. Have a good day.
You too.